The market structure of monopolistic competition was first studied by an economist named Chamberlain, who called it monopolistic not because there was only one firm in the industry, but because the product, so that each individual firm had its own market niche that it could exploit. And it was termed competition because there were many buyers or sellers in the market. So the term monopolistic competition then means it's a differentiated product, so an individual firm has its own market niche, and there's a relatively large number of firms in the industry, so that if one firm makes a decision such as a pricing decision or advertising or product development, there are enough firms in the industry that they can't monitor and react to the decisions by other firms. So in this sense, you can estimate the demand curve for your product and move along that demand curve with price changes, because the assumption is that your competitors are not going to alter their price in response to your price change. So in monopolistic competition, there are many competitors. The product has substitutes, but it's a differentiated product, and in the long run, there aren't any significant barriers to entering and exiting the market. So you can look at the restaurant industry as being an example of monopolistic competition, or the retail apparel companies, like jeans, for example. There are lots of different manufacturers of blue jeans. They all have unique product characteristics. So something like Levi, they can estimate their demand relationship, and they can pick a price point that's relatively low and sell more jeans. You know, the designer jeans, like Guess or some of the exotics, they have their own market niche. It's a premium category, so they'll pick a price point that is higher than some of their competitors. But they're able to do that because of the product differentiation, and they can take advantage of advertising and other things that make consumers aware of those unique product characteristics. And also, they insulate their brand from competition by developing this sort of brand loyalty. Tacit collusion is almost impossible because there are so many firms producing similar products in the market, and the product differentiation also makes it more difficult to coordinate economic decisions. Okay, product differentiation is important to develop this brand loyalty and market niche. And you can look at different ways to differentiate your product. You know, obviously, in the automobile industry, you know, even though I would argue that this is probably more an oligopoly situation, they still engage in product differentiation. So even within a compact car category, you know, you want to have those desirable features that are something consumers are looking for. You can differentiate your product based on location. So something like dry cleaning, for example, is differentiated, you know, partly by location. Gasoline stations to some extent too, and by quality. You know, some brands typically reflect a much higher quality than others. You know, some of this is perceived differences in quality, Is Bayer aspirin actually better than a generic aspirin, even though the chemical composition is the same? Well, maybe not, but consumers may perceive there's a difference. In other situations, there are huge, quality differences. If you're looking at, buying a saltwater fishing reel, for example, there are high quality reels versus low quality reels, and obviously the high quality reel is going to command a premium price point. Interestingly enough, the short-run decision problem for a firm in monopolistic competition is identical to the decision problem of a firm in monopoly. What the firm does is it estimates its demand relationship. So you can collect historical data on sales and estimate what your demand relationship is and how sensitive the quantity demanded is to a change in price points in your market. Once you estimate the demand relationship, you can derive your marginal revenue curve. Similarly, we assume firms know their cost structure, so they know what the marginal cost of producing an additional unit of output is. They know what their average total cost is. And then, because there's a large number of firms in the industry, obviously the demand for your product is going to depend not only on the price that you charge, but on the price that your competitors charge. But we've assumed in this market that if you make a pricing decision, your competitors do not react to that pricing decision. So you can make a pricing decision and move along your demand curve. You don't have to consider how your competitors might react to that pricing decision. So in this market structure, the decision process is to choose the level of output that you could call Q star, which is the profit maximizing level of output. And where you find that is you continue to expand output until marginal revenue just equals marginal cost. So here's the point where the marginal revenue curve intersects the marginal cost curve. This is the level of output that's going to maximize profit. And if you're producing at a level of output, say Q naught, at this level of output, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. So in order to increase profits, you're going to want to expand output. Similarly, if you were at Q1, at this level of output, marginal revenue is way down here, marginal cost is up here. So marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. So to increase profits, you'd want to decrease output. Okay, when you get to Q star, marginal revenue just equals marginal cost. So if you decrease output, your profits go down. If you increase output, your profits go down. So this is the profit maximizing level of output. Then we go up to our demand curve and find out what price we should charge. This is the maximum price we can charge in order to sell Q star level of output. So this is the price that the firm in monopolistic competition would choose, and this is the level of output that the firm would choose. Okay, the third thing that we can do is we can find out whether this firm is earning positive economic profits. So at this level of output, average total cost is this amount. The price that you're charging is this amount. So if we take the difference between price minus average total cost, this gives you your profit per unit of sales. So if you're selling the product at a price that's greater than your average cost of producing it, then you have a positive economic profit. And if you multiply times the number of units that you're selling, The profit per unit times the number of units you're selling gives you total profit. And this rectangle that's shaded blue is the graphical representation of total profit. It's profit per unit times the level of output that you're selling. And in monopolistic competition, because there aren't significant barriers to entry, if firms are earning above normal profits, meaning profits that are above zero, then other firms in the long run are going to enter the industry. And when other firms enter the industry, it actually means that other firms are going to be cannibalizing some of your sales. So the demand for your product is going to tend to decrease, which is going to lower your profitability. And because firms in this industry are earning positive economic profits, other firms are going to enter the industry. And when this happens, the demand curve for your product is going to decrease because some of your customers are going to go to your competitors. And the graphical depiction of that is as follows. You get a decrease in demand, and when that happens, you still equate marginal revenue and marginal cost. Now you're going to produce a lower level of output to maximize profit. You go up to your demand curve, and this is the price that you're going to charge in order to maximize profit. But at this price just equals average total cost. So at this level of output, price equals average total cost, and that means that you're earning a zero economic profit, which means that now this is the long-run equilibrium in this industry, because when firms earn a normal rate of return, zero economic profit, it means that other firms are not going to enter the industry, and firms that are in the industry, because they're earning normal profits, have no incentive to leave. So this is the long-run equilibrium in perfect competition. Okay, now we have a situation where, okay, given your demand relationship now, if you're going to produce anything, you're going to produce at this level of output, I'll call it Q naught, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Then you go up to your demand curve, and this is the maximum price that you can charge. And you can see at this level of output, your average total cost is greater than price, or price is less than average total cost. And if you take the amount that you're losing per unit times the number of units that you sell, this will give you the negative profit or the loss that you're incurring. And remember, as long as the price is above your average variable cost, say this is average variable cost, as long as the price is above average variable cost, you're going to continue to produce in the short run. But if you don't expect conditions to improve in your market, in the long run, you're going to possibly exit the industry. And when you exit the industry and other firms exit the industry, the demand for the remaining firms is going to increase to the point where at some point they'll be earning normal profits again. And now, given firms exiting the industry, now you're back to the long-run equilibrium where firms are earning zero economic profit. And this is the long-run equilibrium that we depict here from the previous slide. Firms equate marginal revenue and marginal costs. They produce at this level of output in monopolistic competition. They go up to their demand curve. They charge a price that is the maximum price in order to sell this amount of output, and at this level of output, price just equals average total cost. So firms are earning a zero economic profit. So in our basic model of monopolistic competition, in the long run, firms earn zero economic profit. And now, if you're a manager of a firm in monopolistic competition, like a retail apparel store, and I told you that that in the long run you're going to be earning a normal rate of return, zero economic profit, but nothing above that. Are you going to tell your supervisor or the the regional managers that hey, in the long run, in this market structure, we can't expect to make above normal profits? What is your manager going to tell you? Well, essentially, they're going to argue that, well, you have to do things better than your competition. You have to develop a brand loyalty that's based on what the product characteristics are, or the level of service that you provide is, or the way that your store is arranged, or you have to do a better job of buying inventory that customers want, staying up on the sales trends. You have to do a better job at inventory management. You have to use dynamic pricing in order to get the maximum revenue from existing inventory. So if you're looking at this as a managerial decision problem, you can point to lots and lots of things that good managers would do in order to continue to make positive profits in the long run. But in the context of our model, firms earn zero economic profit because of the assumptions of our model. And in the context of our model, we can compare the long-run equilibrium in perfect competition. And we can see in perfect competition, price equals marginal cost in our long-run equilibrium. And we're operating at the minimum point on our average total cost curve. So you can argue that when price equals marginal cost, and you're operating at the most efficient scale of operation, that this results in allocative efficiency. The long-run equilibrium in monopolistic competition, firms are also earning zero economic profit, but as you can see, they're not operating at the minimum point on their average total cost curve. Minimum is down here, and the price is above marginal cost. So price is greater than marginal cost. At this level of output, marginal cost is down here, price is up here. So price is greater than marginal cost, and you're not operating at the minimum point on your average total cost curve in our model of these market structures. So you could argue that monopolistic competition results in inefficient allocations, but depending on the firm that you're in, the relative nature of these cost curves might be such that this difference may be relatively small, and the product diversity that you get, the differentiation, different types of products that you get, and loosely speaking, in these markets, there are lots of firms engaging in a certain amount of price competition. So the inefficiency of monopolistic competition a lot of times is not something that is a major concern. And as we said earlier, in monopolistic competition, firms advertise in order to differentiate their product, develop more brand loyalty. And in so doing, they're making the demand for their product less elastic, so which means that they can pick a higher price point and it's not going to affect sales very much. And anyone that follows these consumer staple goods, like consumer staples, the branded consumer staples, the companies that are able to differentiate their brands are able to charge much higher price points. You compare Coca-Cola to the generic colas. You can compare Johnson's baby oil to the generic baby oil. You can compare Cheerios, real Cheerios, the branded Cheerios, to the knockoff Cheerio brands, or any of the premium brands relative to generic brands. Typically command a significant price premium that's based on this branded nature of these goods. And we'll look at that in more detail when we look at our next team exercise, but it's important to realize that advertising is important in terms of product differentiation. And if we had a more expansive model, we could include advertising as one of our decision variables. And the decision rule will be you look at the incremental or marginal cost of advertising and compare that to the incremental or marginal benefit that you get from advertising. And using this incremental analysis, you continue to increase your advertising expenditures until the marginal cost just equals the marginal benefit. If you have time to look at this TED Talk, it's an interesting one that looks at some of the factors that affect consumers' perception of products relative to the amount of advertising. And it's interesting to consider, especially if you have an interest in marketing or product development.